never learned the old lines, so some new ones don't make any difference. Most of the time, opening night, I thought he was in some other play. And I wished I was in some other theater.
Hollywood's golden age was far seedier than anyone imagined. While actresses grabbed headlines for their wild antics, the men had their own dark secrets, and many would do absolutely anything to climb the ladder to fame. From secret rendezvous to backroom deals, some of the biggest stars traded more than just talent for success. What were some of the outrageous things some actors did to be famous? Join us as we dive into the shocking, scandalous stories of 25 Golden Age actors who paid a price few ever knew about. Number 25. Van Johnson. Before fame, Van Johnson was a poor boy from the Bronx, sleeping on warehouse floors and wondering if he'd ever be more than just another lost dreamer in Hollywood. One evening, in a small diner on Melrose, director George Cukor noticed the shy, handsome young man and saw something others had overlooked, a spark worth nurturing. Instead of sending him away, Cukor gave Johnson a chance that began with a simple sentence: "I don't need you to act, I just need you to behave." That night, Johnson was taken to Cukor's mansion. The audition happened in the bedroom, not on a stage. By the very next morning, Van was holding a real screen test and had enough money to get back on his feet. Johnson later admitted that it wasn't pride that kept him going. It was determination never to end up back on a park bench. Hollywood demanded sacrifices, and he gave them. Number 24. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando's climb to stardom was a feverish game of bodies and power played in apartments and behind locked studio doors. In the late 1940s, Brando discovered that the quickest way into Hollywood's spotlight was through its bedrooms. Gender didn't matter, age didn't matter, only influence. If someone could open a door, Brando was willing to slip into their sheets. Director George Cukor was one of the first, paying him $300 a week for late-night sessions in his Beverly Hills home. Soon after, Brando was recommended to Elia Kazan, which led to his role in A Streetcar Named Desire. From there, Brando slept with producers, studio heads, and journalists, each encounter pulling him closer to stardom. Number 23. Rudolph Valentino. Before women fainted at his gaze, Rudolph Valentino was hustling just to survive in New York. Fired from a waiter job for being too friendly with certain male clients, he was soon pulled into the shadowy world of Mickey, an underground club where rich men paid $50 a night to take home beautiful boys. Valentino didn't jump in willingly, but when someone threatened to report his shaky immigration status, he gave in. Week after week, wealthy patrons would claim him, and though he became the fantasy of countless women later, his first lessons in intimacy weren't glamorous. One of his regulars, actor Norman Cary, eventually brought him west to Hollywood, paving the way for his breakout role in The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Number 22. Tony Curtis. In 1948, fresh from the Bronx, Curtis walked into Universal's offices with nothing but ambition. Within minutes, an older producer studied him and asked a loaded question: "Are you obedient?" It wasn't about acting. According to journalist Robert Hoffler, Curtis soon found himself in a casting director's private apartment, where he stayed for an entire week. The rent he paid was his body, and the payoff was his first real role in Crisscross. He never denied it. In fact, years later, Curtis admitted he always knew his looks were his greatest weapon. By the time Some Like It Hot made him an icon, the world saw a charming heartthrob. But in his private notes, Curtis scrawled a bitter truth: "If people knew what I did to get here, they'd never call me sweet again." Number 21. James Dean. Los Angeles, summer 1951. A 20-year-old farm boy named James Dean stepped off the bus with empty pockets and restless dreams. He had no family in Hollywood, no auditions waiting, not even a roof he could truly call his own. What he did have was a face that powerful men found irresistible. The legendary Chateau Marmont, already infamous for secretive after-hours auditions, became the stage where Dean was first noticed. At a private party where young hopefuls were stripped of their names and given numbers, Dean was simply number 6. Soon he was ushered into the orbit of Rogers Brackett, a wealthy theater director. Brackett played mentor and patron, but behind that support came whispered deals, midnight sobs, and the kind of compromises Dean could never speak of. Number 20. Anthony Perkins. Hollywood adored molding boys like Anthony Perkins, and long before he became the chilling Norman Bates, he was already being shaped behind closed doors. In New York, he drifted through the Commodore Hotel, where powerful men arranged meetings that kept him afloat. One of his most influential patrons was Roy Cohn, the ruthless attorney with connections to moguls who prized obedient, cultured boys for their private gatherings. Perkins, they said, was perfect, gentle, attentive, and willing. An insider told Confidential magazine in 1965 that Perkins had a rare gift. He made each man feel like the only one. The rewards were steady roles and the promise of bigger things. When Alfred Hitchcock came calling, rumors spread that the director bought Perkins out of another contract with an unusual clause, one that kept the actor intimately available during Psycho's production. Number 19. George Maharis. George was television's rebel prince of the early 60s. As Buzz Murdoch on Route 66, he had all that made women swoon and men envy. But fame in that era was fragile, and Maharis learned how quickly adoration could curdle into scandal. In November 1967, the Los Angeles Times ran a small but devastating headline: TV actor arrested in public restroom. The details were hushed, but court files later revealed the truth. He had been caught in an intimate encounter with an undercover officer at the Westwood Hotel. Hollywood, terrified of any whiff of controversy, dropped him almost instantly. Directors whispered he had been hired more for his beauty than his skill, and now even that beauty couldn't shield him. Yet Maharis never lashed out, never begged for sympathy. He simply slipped into a quiet life away from the glare. Number 18. Sal Mineo. Sal Mineo's life in Hollywood was far darker than the glamour suggested. At 16, he was invited to a producer's mansion and told he could have a part only if he proved himself. By morning, his audition was guaranteed. He later admitted that roles often came at a cost and that directors and producers expected more than talent. After James Dean's death, Mineo slipped into a cycle of being used, trading his body for small roles and fading into near obscurity. Number 17. Cary Grant. In the early years of his career, Cary lived with fellow actor Randolph Scott for nearly 2 decades. Magazines of the time called them inseparable companions. But whispers around Hollywood suggested the bond ran much deeper. Their Malibu Beach mansion became a hotspot for private gatherings with directors. According to insider accounts, Cary himself sometimes orchestrated the deals behind closed doors. One story recalls a night when 3 directors visited, only for Grant to disappear with them into a locked upstairs room. Days later, he secured the leading role in Bringing Up Baby. A leaked Columbia Pictures memo from 1942 further hinted at his compliance with after-hours activities, often linked to keeping studio financiers happy. Even as he rose to stardom, Grant never fully distanced himself from Hollywood's shadowy exchanges. Number 16. Tyrone Power. In Hollywood, Tyrone Power beauty was a price tag. In 1936, before he signed with 20th Century Fox, Power was lured to Palm Springs by an older producer later exposed in FBI files for turning casting parties into thinly veiled sex auditions. A staffer revealed Power was first asked to model swimwear, then tested for obedience. By morning, he had a 5-year contract. That deal marked the start of a career built on silent transactions. Offset, his calendar was packed with private sponsorships by Hollywood's elite, his charm a currency he could never stop spending. At Brown Derby nights, the whispers followed. Tyrone was paying debts with his body. Number 15. Richard Chamberlain. Richard, the polished TV doctor adored as Doctor. Kildare carried a secret life off camera and lived in constant fear of exposure. A single leaked photo could have ended his career. An assistant later revealed how guarded he was. He only met lovers in his apartment, with windows sealed, curtains drawn, and phones unplugged. Hollywood's power brokers preyed on that fear. Chamberlain was pushed into midnight auditions in Beverly Hills, where producers and journalists cared less about acting than about submission. On one occasion, he was told to privately satisfy a network executive before a role was approved. Number 14. Tab Hunter. In the 1950s, no Hollywood star gleamed brighter than Tab Hunter. But while magazines painted him as the dream every girl wanted, the truth was far more dangerous. At just 19, Hunter's secret world nearly came crashing down. He was caught at a wild gay party in Long Beach and arrested. In those days, such a scandal could erase a career overnight. But Hunter was saved by a powerful producer who didn't just bail him out, but bound him to a 5-year contract. Hunter later hinted that his freedom came at a personal cost, murmuring, "I didn't lose anything, just had to stay the night with someone I couldn't say no to." Number 13. Troy Donahghue. Troy Donahghue was a pawn in Hollywood's dirtiest games. In the late 1950s, Donahghue was invited to exclusive casting parties on Mulholland Drive, where the real auditions happened off-camera. At one party in 1958, he was led into a private room where Jack Warner and 2 moneymen waited. A server later recalled Donahghue stumbling out 30 minutes later, pale and shaken. He hadn't been asked to read lines. They only wanted to see him stripped bare. Days later, Warner Brothers handed him a 7-year contract. From then on, his fame came at a cost. In a leaked journal, Donahghue admitted that every time he appeared on screen, he had to erase another part of himself. Number 12. John Gavin. John Gavin was the Hollywood poster boy, but when the cameras stopped, the roles changed. A limo driver later confessed Gavin had midnight drop-offs at a Santa Monica flat where tuxedoed men waited like it was a ritual. Gavin would vanish inside, then reappear an hour later, drained, muttering only, "Take me home. I need a shower." These secret meetings bought him leading roles before the scripts were even finished. One Universal executive admitted Gavin's image was a spotless cover for the rot the studio didn't want the public to smell. Number 11. Roman Navaro. On Halloween night in 1968, police walked into Ramon Navaro's Laurel Canyon home and found a nightmare. The once golden silent screen idol lay dead, strangled with his own phone cord, his mouth stuffed with tissue. His killers? Paul and Tom Ferguson, 2 hustlers he'd invited in. They were after cash. They thought the aging star had a stash of hidden money from his Hollywood years. But when the case hit the papers, it cracked open more than just a murder. Reporters unearthed a secret ledger, a little black book of the powerful and famous who had once visited Navaro for more than conversation. Directors, politicians, and even stars at the height of their fame had crossed his doorstep. On the stand, one man admitted, "I met him when I was 17. He told me, 'Just behave and I'll get you in a film.' And he did." For decades, Navaro had lived 2 lives, the matinee idol adored on screen, and the man selling himself behind closed doors under false names. He entertained Hollywood's elite, gave them what they craved, but carried the shame in silence. Number 10. Farley Granger. Away from the screen, Farley Granger's life was tangled in passion, fear, and secrets. In 1950, he fell into a powerful relationship with screenwriter Arthur Lawrence, a man who steered both his love life and career. Granger later admitted Arthur taught him not just about love, but also how to perform, and off-screen. Their bond lasted 15 years, shrouded in whispers. In Hollywood, people speculated every time Granger won a role, hinting he'd paid for it with his body. On the set of Strangers on a Train, a crew member was even fired for mocking the rumors. In one of his final reflections, Granger said, "I was loved, I was used, but I don't regret it." In Hollywood, desire is the price of survival. Number 9. William Billy Haynes. William Billy Haynes was Hollywood's golden boy, but behind the lights and laughter was a man who survived a scandal. Before fame, Haynes quietly sold himself in elite men's clubs, not just for money, but for status. He once admitted, "I work there to be seen, to be chosen." It was a dangerous game, yet one that fed his hunger for connection and survival. In 1933, his double life crashed into public view when police caught him in a hotel with another man. MGM demanded he apologize. Instead, Haynes shocked the press by declaring, "I love him. I won't give him up." It was defiance rare for that era, and it cost him his career. Fired by MGM, he left acting behind and reinvented himself as a celebrated interior designer for Hollywood's elite. Number 8. Guy Madison. Before Hollywood crowned Guy as the picture-perfect cowboy of the adventures of Wild Bill Hickok, he was just a broke Navy vet hustling in Los Angeles. Interestingly, his survival came from the kitchens and bedrooms of Beverly Hills mansions. At the Beverly Hills Hotel, powerful hosts treated him less like a waiter and more like living art. Shirtless, he'd be instructed to stand motionless like a statue while guests dined, admired, and plotted what came next. Sometimes, before dessert, he'd vanish into a locked bedroom with someone who didn't want to be photographed. One director later confessed in a memoir, "Guy knew exactly what he was doing. He was gorgeous, and he played the part. I once watched him accept a room key with a smile, like it was a scene he'd rehearsed 100 times. Number 7. Don Murray. According to an unpublished memoir from a Fox casting assistant, Murray's first contract didn't come from talent alone. He was allegedly pressured into a private audition with a powerful director. 2 hours behind closed doors, he stumbled out pale and shaken. When asked what happened, he murmured, "I think I just sold my soul to be seen through a lens." He never confirmed the rumor, but he never denied it either. In a 1982 interview, his words carried a sting. In Hollywood, not everything is written into contracts, but everyone knows what's expected if they want their name on the dotted line. Number 6. Scotty Bowers. Scotty Bowers was Hollywood's best-kept dirty secret. A former Marine, he stumbled into the role of pimp to the stars after the war, running more than just a gas station on Hollywood Boulevard in 1946. From that small corner, he became the industry's pleasure broker, connecting ambitious young men with powerful stars and executives. In his memoir, Full Service, Bowers casually listed names that shocked readers: Rock Hudson, Cary Grant, and Spencer Tracy. He said he wasn't just arranging the encounters, he joined in on many himself. By his own count, he organized over 1,000 liaisons, becoming both supplier and participant in Hollywood's underground network of desire. Number 5. Anthony Perkins. Anthony Perkins was once Hollywood's tender-eyed golden boy that was irresistible to casting directors and even more irresistible to men in power. In New York, before Psycho, Perkins survived by slipping into the Commodore Hotel for discreet meetings. One of his steady clients was Roy Cohn, the ruthless attorney who dangled him before media moguls as cultured arm candy. An industry insider later confessed that Perkins was rare. He could make anyone feel like the only one, and in return, doors swung open. Rumor swirled that Alfred Hitchcock himself purchased Perkins's studio contract with whispers of a clause tying his body to the Psycho set as much as his talent. Years later, unearthed letters to an ex-lover revealed his torment. "I'm not afraid to die for a role. I'm afraid of dying slowly to earn it." Number 4. Dennis Hopper. Dennis once admitted that his rebellion came at a heavy cost. "I sold my soul for a client's role and one night in Beverly Hills." By the mid-60s, Hopper had burned every bridge. His tantrums got him blacklit. Then came a strange invitation, a private party in a mansion high above Mulholland Drive. Hopper, hungry for another shot, played along. Nicholas Ray later wrote that Hopper spent the night with an aging producer who promised him a chance. That chance was a bit part in The Sons of Katie Elder. Number 3. Gene Kelly. Before Hollywood crowned him a dance legend, Gene Kelly was. In 1937, he left with nothing but 2 suitcases and a list of producer names scribbled in a notebook. One of his first encounters was with choreographer Charles Weidman, whose private training group was less about pirouettes and more about sex, auditioning with their bodies, obedience, and willingness to bend. Even as his fame rose, the dance never ended. Studios and financiers demanded his presence at private soirees where he was expected to perform. Number 2. Clark Gable. Clark Gable was a young man trying to survive until he got kicked out of his home in Oregon for dropping out of school. Jobless and desperate, Gable fell under the care of William H. Wright, a prominent gay playwright. Officially a stage apprentice, Gable's real work was serving Wright's every whim in exchange for total compliance. Every Friday night, Wright entertained guests, and Gable obediently moved drinks through the crowd before slipping into private rooms. When Wright died suddenly, Gable carried his mentor's contacts to Los Angeles, stepping carefully into Hollywood's underworld. Internal MGM records reveal he was once bailed out of a gay scandal involving a male critic, a move that allowed him to audition for The Painted Desert, his first breakthrough. Number 1. Rock Hudson. Rock was a carefully groomed companion behind closed doors. In the early 1950s, Universal's top manager, Henry Wilson, placed Hudson on a private list of high-potential pretty boys, chosen not for talent, but for obedience, discretion, and charm. With the perfect features, Hudson became the perfect escort for elite clients. From Beverly Hills hotel suites to Palm Springs estates, he would arrive with a smile, pour drinks, make polite conversation, and, if required, enter bedrooms without question. A studio memo, later revealed by Scotty Bowers, noted, "He can handle 2 clients a night as long as no one takes pictures." What do you think of the controversial lifestyle of these actors' golden age? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.